Simbusene benkosi sinamukele kwakusile breakfast show lomhla ekseni kungolesithathu futhi insuku ngemashumi lamabili sivusela nje sinamukela ehlelweni lomuhla kunikhumbuta ukuthi itolo kuphuma isimemetelo lesikhulu kakhulu sebutimba lesikhokhwe yindvuna Mangomeni egameni ke lemakhosi kodwa ke ndasibona leso simemetelo sisachubeka nehlelo eti Ndzabeni libito lami ngosifiso nganqumalo kanti ke ngihamba nemthiyane. Good morning, kunjani?
I'm good. How are you, Sfiso?
Doing all right.
Yes.
Yeah, doing all right. You know, I'm thinking before I tell you that, just your hair on your left. Just do this on your hair.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there you are.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
How nice of you.
I'm observant. I'm
Gentlemen,
observant.
thank you very much.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you everything that has happened, you know, over the past few weeks. I'm sure kukhona that has caught your attention the most. I know you're excited. Nasiteka indzabe ukuthi umhlanga sovele uthutane ngoba indzabe lo iteka konke malanga ngisho singekho emoyeni.
I look forward to that one, you know, and also just seeing the thousands rather of tourists that will be participating. One of my favorite tracks, you know, even though I cannot probably sing it from A to Z during the reed dance, was one that Her Royal Highness Nkosazana Sikhanyisa used to dance to, Uhlanganisa TV. And every time I remember that song, I just realize how, you know, the dance is not just cultural or just for Eswatini to participate. We are showcasing the beauty of the country, but more than anything, we are uniting Emave through the beauty of culture.
100%. You speak about the, you know, thousands of tourists that will be flocking the kingdom of Eswatini, but also the thousands of maidens from across Eswatini, you know, who will be displaying their pageantry in song, in dance,
taking
and in
pride
just
in
color.
their virginity.
That kind of beauty that Eswatini continues to uphold is for sure putting us, you know, some of the beautiful things that are happening for countries uniquely. And surely, I was watching a documentary just yesterday about the Kingdom of Eswatini, a vlog really by some content creator from Europe. They were in Eswatini, and some of the things that really stood out for them was the culture that they got to experience here in Eswatini, as well as, you know, just the decorum, as well as the spirit, the sense of community that we carry. I think that's very beautiful.
You know, while you speak on content creators from abroad, admiring the country, I also have to give it to our local content creators. They are also doing the most in terms of showcasing the different, you know, establishments that the country has, and also just showcasing the different locations and sites to see that this beautiful kingdom has to offer. However, on the program today, the inaugural Tourism Indaba is a defining moment for the Kingdom of Eswatini to reimagine the future of tourism. This platform is expected to unlock new opportunities, attract investment, and showcase our unique culture and landscapes rather to the world. But beyond the fanfare, how ready is the hospitality industry to capitalize on this moment? This morning, we hope to sit down with the Hospitality Association on competitiveness, sustainability, and the true impact of this tourism indaba. But first, here's a look at what is making headlines in print. On the Eswatini Observer this morning, His Majesty King Mswati III has safely arrived in Japan to join other world leaders for TCAD 9 starting today. His Majesty is in the company of Inkosigati Mage Lamasebula for the 3-day meeting taking place at the Pacific Yokohama National Convention Hall. Also, another headline there is that of Eswatini Medical Christian University students hijacking Education Minister. Aggrieved learners force audience with Minister who was fresh from cabinet to detail their grievances. I can imagine how much of an emergency that was. And also in another headline there, teachers' ashes finally back home and face 2 tax bill at 40 million emalangeni.
We look at the Eswatini Observer Sports headlines. The first one is Highlanders wallet ready for Pupu's prize. That is Banele Skonze, who wants 150,000 emalangeni to rejoin Highlanders, while the club confirms they are in talks with the player. In other news, 3 out of 3 as Sereno extends Kaizer Chiefs winning run. Another news, EFC to host second edition of Swazi Warrior Challenge, while Luca shines with 4 gold medals in South Africa. Ngaklokunye Mamkhize seeks dismissal with costs, and Minister has given 21-day ultimatum on sports bill.
And on the Eswatini Daily News front page, His Majesty King Mswati III's arrival in Japan is making headlines again. And also we're seeing the government champions grand plan for national transformation amid public interest. Another headline there is that of the Prime Minister Russell Dlamini, who has expressed heartfelt congratulations on behalf of His Majesty's government to His Majesty the King for his recent appointment as Deputy Chairperson of the Southern African Development Community Organ on Politics, Defence and Security Cooperation. Also, as mentioned by my colleague, His Majesty summons nation's warriors for Butimba.
Swallows Pty Ltd faction runs to EFA. Tension in the Mbabane Swallows nest continues to run higher. This is after the Swallows Pty Ltd faction sought assistance from the newly formed Eswatini Football Association Arbitration Commission. This is happening as the battle for the soul of the beautiful birds rages on. In other news, FIFA congratulates Samora on assuming presidency of the EFA, and Cupido opens about early Sundowns struggles, I beg your pardon.
And those are just some of the headlines we are waking up to this morning. This is Kusile for sure. We'll go for a break. When we come back, Dinzaba in our Eswatini.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.za.
Senze sikwamukele ehlelweni Kusile Breakfast Show nathi Dinzaba desiswati silo semhlaba sifikile eveni leJapan lapho khona kubhekeke ukuthi sihlanganyele nalabanye baholi emhlanganweni wemfica welive leJapan wekwesekela imisebenzi yentuthuko evenikatini leAfrika iTICAD 9. Silo sifikele esikhumulweni setindiza iHenada International Airport sisingethwe inkhosikati Makela Mathebula. Ngwenyama ihola libandla lelifaka ekhathi bantu benkosi kanye netindvuna tembuso.
Ngemva kwekufika emaphethelweni nemhlangano kaSADC eveni leMadagascar, ingwenyama seyinyathele eveni leJapan lapho itawungenela khona umhlangano wemfica welive leJapan wekwesekela imisebenzi yentuthuko evekatini leAfrika iTICAD 9. Ingwenyama yemngwele ngilophuka inhlelo temhlangano weTICAD Ambassador Kazuyoshi Matsunaka ngesikhathi ifikela isikhumulweni setindiza iHenada isingethwe inkhosikati Makela Mathebula. Impube emhlaba isingethwe libandla lelifaka ekhathi umvanenkosi Lonkokhela, umvanenkosi Siphila, sikhulu sasengcina Sigeza Dlamini, netindvuna tembuso umhlonishwa Pholile Shakhantu, umhlonishwa Dr. Thambo Gina nemhlonishwa Manqoba Khumalo. Umhlangano waka-TICAD lwasungulwa ka-1993. Hulumende waseJapan usebenzisana namhlabuhlangene inhlangano yebunye be-Afrika, i-African Union, inhlangano yakamhlaba lebuketa indzaba tentuthuko, i-United Nations Development Programme nelibhange lemhlaba. Lonxusele live leSwatini eveni leTopiya lophindza nxusele live enhlanganweni yebunye be-Afrika lusiba amahlaba mamba uthi kulo mhlangano emave ase-Afrika atawuthola lithuba lekwetfulela live leJapan imisebenzi yentuthuko lafise kubambiseka kiyo.
It's iJapan njengabantfu on an equal partnership singani lekelela ngakuphi siniside ngakuphi lokho kufaka tonke tinhlangotsi letifaka nje lokuyintuthuko ku-Afrika lekudzingako tekulima temfundo nisini technology kodwa ngeSiswati tebuchwephesha cishe konke loko i-Afrika lenyalo ikudzinga ikakhulukati lakangwane leliphokophelele kwekuthi lifuna kufika esigabeni sekuba live nalo lelithuthukile. Lo mhlangano ke lo iJapan ngoba yona seyisembili ngetekuthuthuka, it's an industrialized nation. Inawo futhi lama resources.
Tekuthula nekuphepha titawuba ingcenye yetihloko letihamba embili kulo mhlangano.
Leti tekuphepha nekusimama kwelive kwemhlaba kweAfrika ngiko lokunye leyitawufika ingwenyama ibethele kona kuthi lakangwane liphila siphi yini lelingathi ithekela embili.
Lo mhlangano utawuvulwa ngalokusemthethweni ngaleSithathu kanti utawubanjwa ngaphasi kwesihloko lesithi kubambisana ekwakheni tinsombululo tesimanje manje leticatulula tinsayelo letibhekene nelivekati le-Afrika. Tindvuna tembuso letsingatse silo semhlaba titawenda imisebenzi lephatselene namatiko ato ngekwehlukana kwawo. Kulandzela lo mhlangano utawutsinza tonke tingoni tentuthuko. Tindzabeni kubika Sandile Makhanya anaThabiso Dlamini edolobheni Yokohama kulaseJapan.
Ingwenyama seyimemetele ukuthi emabutho akaphelele esigodlweni eLutsitsini ngemgcibelo mhla tinga-23 kuyo inyanga yeNgci. Emabutho atawubheka ukuthi aphathe konke latakudzinga lokufanele. Simemetelo sikhishwa indvuna mangomeni Nzimanze uma yetfula simemetelo sebutimba esigodlweni eLutsitsini egameni lemakhosi.
Lalela tindzaba letibuye enkosini usho kandaba emabutho etaphelele ngako konke lebatakudzinga intigila tabo tebutimba aphelele Lutsitsini ngemgcibelo mhla ka-23 kuyo leNgci. Nanga ke lamabutho inkhanyeti inyatsi umgadlela bokhololo usho njalo ke lodungandaba wasembelebeleni ngumkhephula ngejozi ligazi phala lena ngemakhala ngibhebhebhe kumlilo lowavutha igana zongana ingani kwavutha bomakhonjwa kanye nabogobolondlo kumswati ngilobanti ubanti ngoba ugqwala tindlela livuso lelidlo into seswini bese kusilonge phandle usinza ngemagosi okutibalekela mswati ngitshela umuntu okwalako ntovunisa imyakhe kane tingabatayo ulomagadlagadla sobhuza ulomashikisela lomashimbi yakhe lesikhiwa lesivuthwa kulamnyama emahlathi ingana lapha mswati kakhona bangwana bayasha kodwa bashele etindlini luhoho ngilolufunga ngilabemuka kwele bathi asukuye kabo mswati ngobe kuyabulawana nemba labaqinisile nathi netibata khona zavalwa nangemvalo dvanga inhloko temadoda ulomagadlagadla sobhuza lomashikisela lomashimbi yakhe Agamudayana bahlele hlahleni haye kentsaba ngwenyama ngekusiswela sibhama yelele kinyamatane sayihlaba yaseyi ijube elishobala bethe wena waphakathi wena ungangezindaba zamabhoko.
Egameni lahulumende kanye nesive seMaswati, umhlonishwa Mvunankulu Russell Dlamini sawubongele ingwenyama ngekukhethwa kwayo kuthi ibe lisekela lasihlalo weliphiko lolibukede kuphepha kaSADC.
Egameni lahulumende wembube sithandza ukuhalalisela ingwenyama inkosi Mswati wesithathu ngekubeka kwayo kuba lisekela lasihlalo welibandla lelibuke tepolitiki tekuvikela nekuphepha emaveni lasendasi neAfrika. SADC Organ of Politics, Defense and Security Cooperation, Troika. Lokhu kwendvulela kuthatha kwengwenyama kuba ngusihlalo wayo SADC Troika. Ngalokhu semthethweni eminyakeni lodako. Sive siyathokoza ngenzima ledlalwa ngiyo ingwenyama letha kubuyisana kwemave kanye nekuthula eAfrika yonkana. Lokhu sikubona eminyakeni lendlulile lapho khona ingwenyama ibe lihlahlandlela lekuthula nenhlalakahle emaveni lehlukahlukene kuSADC ngesikhathi ingusihlalo wayo iSADC Troika ngeminyaka wa-2010 kuya ku-2011. Etinyangeni letisithupha letengcini siphinde sabona live laKangwane libekwa kuba nguye isihlalo welibandla lekuthula nekuphepha eAfrika jikelele, i-African Union Peace and Security Council. Lokhu solo kukhomba kona ukuthi live lilihlahlandlela lekuthula nenhlalakahle eAfrika. Futhi kunenzima lenkulu lelingayidlala live kubuyisa kuthula eAfrika. Sive siyayibongela ingwenyama ngemsebenzi lomuhle losewubona nguwo umhlaba bayethe wena maphakathi.
Liphini Mvunankulu umhlonishwa Kusile Dladla sewuthumise bodokotela bemathambo esibhedlela lesikhulu sahulumende eMbabane labakhoneke kulapha umntwana lo aphile Simelane wasesiphofaneni aphile bekanenkinga yekuhamba. Liphini Mvunankulu libongela bodokotela ngesikhathi liyakuyahlola lo mntwana kulesibhedlela.
Amahle Simelane wasenzaweni yasesiphofaneni loleminyaka lelishumi budzala wabonwa bosonhlala kahle labangaphansi kwelehhovisi leliphini Mvunankulu ngalelinye ilanga ahamba kabuhlungu. Labo sonhlala kahle bayibika indzaba kuloliphini Mvunankulu. Iphini Mvunankulu ke lathi litsinzana nalokungiselela ivele eTaiwan kuleli umhlonishwa Jeremy Liang. Jeremy Liang waseuhlala phansi nabochwephesha baseveni laseTaiwan babuka ukuthi ngabe lo mntwana angasedakala njani ngenhlanhla lenhle kwabethe isidingo sekuthi athwalwe amikiswe eTaiwan. Kepha-ke wakhona kusitakala esibhedlela esikhulu sahulumende lapha eMbabane. Liphini Mvunankulu-ke naJeremy Liang bafikile lapha esibhedlela lesikhulu sahulumende eMbabane kutawubuka ukuthi ingabe le operation ihambe njani kulo mntwana.
Sinayitolo tisisitile samikisa lomnye wethu eTaiwan wabuya aphilile. So sacabanga ukuthi kumbe kude le facility la ekhaya sesicela ke Taiwan ukuthi sicela usithathele nangumntwana ahambe ayo kwenziwa eTaiwan. Wathi ke Mbasada asimlethe nangembala walethwa bamhlola bodokotela bakithi Kangwane nabo base Taiwan. Sicela kubonga kakhulu etihlotsheni tethu taseTaiwan nehulumende wethu waKangwane kulesibhedlela ngekusilungisela eMaswati ethu ukuthi nawo abe nalo liso lekulungisa kugula lokunjengaloku. Sethembe ukuthi singihulumende sitawuchubeka sibe nawo lama experts ebodokotela bethu abaspecializile ama-specialists kuletindzawo letehlukene lelive litokhona ukuthi likhule lindlondlobale kude kuphila.
Lokungisele live leTaiwan kuleli umhlonishwa Jeremy Liang ubonge bodokotela labaholwa ke ngudokotela Shi labende umsebenzi lomuhle kulo mntwana.
The operation went very, very well. We are very happy. We give the kid, the girl, a bright future. In few months' time, she can walk like a normal kid.
Dokotela Melusi Simelane lomunye wabodokotela labendele operation kulo mntwana uyachaza ukuthi ngabe lokugula lokhu kukukhubateka noma kugula nje lokungabamba noma ngabe ngubani.
Ngoba lokugula kwemntwana lokho sikubita ngekuthi i-Blount's diseases usually kuba la kule ngathini kuma-tibia la kuqaleni kwakhona la mathambo ayagobana entetigwegce njengebantwana but kona kwehlukile nalama lokugula lokwetigwegce esikujwayele kuthiwa ama-rickets. Kona kuba lapha proximal tibia la kuqaleni la kuqala amathambo khona uthola ukuthi nakhona ayagobana la mathambo lekuqaleni bese sekulimadana le-growth plate bathole ukuthi la mathambo sendeso kakhulu. Lokho kuyavama lokulungiseka na umthole asesemncane siyakhona kubenda njengoba nike nabona ewadini khona labanye nje besibendile labanye sebamile ekhokhathi insika labo le operation yasimthola amncane iba incane ayiba inkulu but nasesimthola amdzala njengabo 10 years sengilapho khona sekudzinga ukuthi silijuke lethambo sil-align kahle ukuze atawukhona kubuyela ahambe but nasemncane nje siversify ama plate simniyeke kakhulu ezakhula bese liyacorrectela lona.
Indzaba amahle iveta ke isithombe lesihle sekuthi live laseSwatini liyakhula ekukhoneni-ke kulapha lokunye kugula lokubucayi lapha eSwatini kude ke sidingo sekuthi emaswati amikiswe ngaphandle kwelive. Lokunye lokufika kwathokotisa liphindland nankulu ukuthi lakangwane selinabo bocophesha labangemaswati labakhonako kulapha kugula lokubucayi njengoba bakhona bodokotela bemathambo lababambisana nabodokotela base-Taiwan nabodokotela base-Cuba. Kubika Linton Gulena nombendulo Shabalala Sembabane.
Bafunzi labafundza eNyuvesi ye-Christian Medical University bakhala ngekwekuthi abakhoni kufunza ngenxa yokuthi bothishela babo bagodle emandla. Lokhu kuvetwe ngumengameli welibandla lelimele bafunzi Andile Lawson ngesikhathi bayeke kuyawetfula incwadi yetikhalo etikole temfundvo.
NgoLwesibili bafunzi labacecesha ekolishi i-Eswatini Christian Medical University bavukele etiko letemfundvo kuyawetfula incwadzi yetikhalo kulandzela kugodla emandla kwabothishela kule nyuvesi. Labafunzi kuvakele kutsi bekude lobalindzile etiko letemfundvo kungako-ke bangakavumeleki kutsi bangene emabaleni alelitiko batowetfula lencwadzi. Kepha-ke kufika kwendvuna yetemfundvo umhlonishwa Owenqumalo kubasitile labafunzi njengoba indvuna icele kukhuluma nemalunga alelibandla lelimele bafunzi kule nyuvesi i-SRC. Mengameli wabo bafunzi Andile Lawson uchaza ukuthi yini lebakhatsatako.
Esikolweni kunetinkinga letikhona internally. Tinkinga letitsinza ema staff ne-management. Njengoba ngikhuluma nani nje be-municipal i-exam kune-almanac lekhona e-calendar usually sibita kanjalo. Kuloko ukhanza ukuthi seyiphazamisekile and last week makwendeka like sahlangana emva kokuba bathi-ke no bata-extenda le-exam because bemele sicale last week if I'm not mistaken but bathi bata-extenda with 2 weeks sifunze bese siyayibhala but lo mavile bawa-extendile from last week solo asikafunzi.
Indvuna yetemfundvo umhlonishwa Owenqumalo watisela bafunzi ukuthi indzaba yekugodlwa kwemandla kwabothishela uyayiluma kepha-ke utayisebenta.
Sekutafuna kusasa vele ngithole le board ingibriefe lokuthi kwentekani yini lento ukuthi lama lecturers angakhoni eklasini. Maphela vele sathi khuluma letinto leti ukuthi indzaba sitene etafuleni sithi khulumisa kungabe sekuba nama standoffs. So indzaba ke lengicabanga ukuthi njalo nje ngizawushaya incingo ngishayele iboard noma vele ngisebenza ngeboard angisebenzi ngemanagement ngive eboardini ukuthi kubambe phi ngitiphi itaba lesingadenda baba engage bathini lama lecturers bakhala ngani ama lecturers sizobanika imandate ukuthi sithini labakhalako ngikuphi lesingakhona ngikuphi lesingeke sikhone ukufinyelela kuko.
Nasihlanganisa lombiko mabhalane lomkhulu kulelitiko bekasemhlanganweni nebhodi yakhona eChristian University. Lobikako nguSethabile Mamba anampendulo Kumbi eMbabane.
Kunathishela wakulesinye isikolo sesifundza sakaHhohho lokusolakala ukuthi ugcekeze esikolweni wathatha kudla kwesikolo wakuthengisa basala balambile bafunzi. Lesento salothishela sishiye batali bathukuthele.
Kunathishela wesikolo lesilakaHhohho region losahadlate sakhiwo sesikolo storeroom wakhokha kudla lokuthengwa ngilo live ngihulumende wembube wahamba yokudayisa wadidlela imali bantwana basala kuthekeshe katana letiko kungena kudla. Liphumile ke lovisi laka REO naselikhulumisa lithi cha laphuma lagijima lasukumela eTulu labuya nayo ibodi lamnika ke schools manager kodwa ke batali ngekubuka ukuthi ngathi lenzaba ithatha lici sola isetshenda babe sebavele ehhovisini lakhe Teaching Service Commission kutobota ngalokugcwele ukuthi sebaze bafakele indzaba emaphoyiseni ngoba litiko libonakala lihulisa tinyawo. Kuthi nje nasasebenta msakadi kuba khona labo labadlulisela emuva ngoba phela naseyifikile indzaba kuloyo lefika kuye ukuthi naku la sekucekeziwe kunemithetho kulelive bo-Employment Act, bo-Civil Service Act, bo-Teaching Service Act bonke labakubeka ngembaba ukuthi lo yilo bese uthatha impahla ngalokungekho emthethweni noma ngile tihambela-ke impahla noma lemile wayisebenzisa kutijabulisa noma ukuthi kusitakale yena kulicala nje lelibi lelisho ukuthi bowungacoshwa emsebentini. Cha, ungithishela nje akasuye lophethe isikole wathishela inhloko washaceka wayibikela labafanele be-region lesibabita ngekuthi bo-Regional Education Officer lo office lelichize ku-region yakaHhohho. Bayisebenta baphuma bacwaninga bawutfola vele umbiko ukuthi abedayisa thishela kudla kwesikole lokungadwathi ucuphephi. Bayiletha-ke ehhovisini la-schools manager singati-ke lokuthi kumbe yase seyihamba siphi khona le hhovisini la-schools manager. Kuyinchubo ukuthi nakatawutransfer head teacher uyasayina na-Ario wasayine. Kuloku akukendeki ngendlela kwabashe ngathi uTonva i-community nasesikolweni abamphathi kahle so akasuswe kuphephiswa. Kanti ngilesikola leli kufuna siphephiswe nebamfana ngekuthi yena uyingoti kulesikole. Umfulo omuka abantwana lokolo kuyethunjini usuka ingoti ngoba kude umfana longafunza phephe indlala.
Losabambe kuba ngumphathi welibandla letemfundo lephakeme Dr. Kusile Motsa uthi leli bandla letama kuvala tikhebesi letikhona bekungahambisani ke kwemakhono lakhicitwa ngemanyuvesi uma kuchathaniswa nalawo ladzingwa live. Dr. Motsa bekakhuluma emhlanganweni lobanjwe kuleli bandla likanye nemakolishi nemanyuvesi yakuleli.
Ibandla lelibukete imfundo lephakeme kuleli Eswatini Higher Education Council ngekulandzela tikomba telicwaningo lelibuke emakhono lakhicitwa ngemakolishi nemanyuvesi akuleli lihlanganisela amakolishi nemanyuvesi langaphansi kwahulumende nalatimele kubukisana indzaba yemakhono laniketwa ngulamakolishi. Losabambe kuba ngumphathi kuleli bandla Dr. Kusile Motsa uthi live libhekane nako kungahambisani kwemakhono lakhicitwa ngemakolishi kunaloko lokudzingwa live.
Loku kakhulu is the skills mismatches and skills gap. Another thing lesi engage ngayo institutions namuhla entry requirements bumcoka bawo kuthi kumcoka kangakanani kwekuthi ungene lapho uvinyelwa khona ngema-credits akho. For example, as a student ungafuni kwenda i-degree yet ama-credits akho akuvumela ukuthi wena uye ka-diploma because that will then be a challenge later on. Another thing lesikukhulumisile namuhla i-academic integrity kwakuthi kudzingeke ngani kwekuthi as higher education institutions sikhulume ngema-students ethu kwekuthi phela kukhona ama-ethics lekufuna guide kufundza kwethu in our higher education institutions. Loku kakhulu nje lokusihluphako as Eswatini sihlushwa i-issue ye-plagiarism ne-issue ye-contract cheating because what we are seeing kwekuthi la kuma-social media pages the people who advertise ema-services ngokuthi bayabhalelana ema-assignments bayabhalelana ema-research projects.
Lokhulumelela amakolishi kube nguthishela welikolishi lelicecesha bothishela eNgwane Vincent Kunene lovedile ukuthi lamakolishi nembala kumcoka ukuthi anikede emakhono netifundvo letidzingwa live.
Sinathi tinhlelo tetfu sitimise ngaleli ndlela yokuthi laba lesibakhicitako sikhicita abantu labatsingakalako lapho batawufike basebente khona babambe lichaza lelibonakalako. Lokufaka ekhathi ke mhlambe akusiko kona lokho ukuthi mhlambe kulungisa lama programs ethu ukuthi abe ngilawo mhlambe lasezingeni lelifanele.
Leli bandla litawuchubeka nemihlangano lenjengalena etifundzeni telive kanti umbiko wemakhono waleli bandla weminyaka wa 2025 uveta ukuthi kubheke ukuthi ngeminyaka lelishumi nakubili ematfuba emsebenzi akhulwe ngaloko lishumi nakubili nencenye ekhulwini 12.2%. Lobikako ngisamkelisiwe khoza nasethabile mamba naleli timhlanga kamanzini.
Libandla leliphunga tehlakalo i-NDMA likhutsata sive ukuthi njengoba sekungena lihlobo kumele ukuthi sitilungiselele tinkingeni letiyaye tivele esikhatsini sasehlobo. Lokho kulandzela ukuthi leli bandla linake ukuthi sive sibe siyayekela ke noma ke siyayekelela etindzabeni tekulungisa ikakhulu takhiwo labahlala kuto lokwenta tibe sebungotini yekulimala nakunetehlakalo tsite. umphathi we-NDMA Victor Mahlalela ucela sive ukuthi silibambise leli bandla ekutilungiseleleni.
Umphathi we-NDMA Victor Mahlalela uthi leli bandla lide emandla ekwelekelela labo labadingela usizo basalungiselela letehlakalo ngenxa yokuba bede imali leyanele.
Diningi indlela tekudilungiselela esikhathini lesemuva nje bokhanza ukuthi abantu labadzala balungiselela ngakuthi isikhathi lesi lapho khona uyabhatha indle yakho noma ngabe yelidzaka uyayihuqa nangabe njalo yetshani isikhathi lesi sekuthi itshani buyasikwa buyaphinze kuyafulelwa kabusha nangabe ngileyo ifulelwe ngendlela lekuthi ibiyele esimeni kuze kusinalifika litulu likhanze ukuthi isesimeni lesikahle lesibe nako ingodi letiningi ukhanza ukuthi letimvula matina lamandi ehlela lalibonzeni lalendlu ehlela lalibonzeni agcineke lendlu leyo seyigcine seyikhathele seyiyadzilika ngiko kona lokho ukuthi asithi sive asikhone kufulela ngesikhathi leso structure sakho sabo leso mhlambe sengendlula lapho ngaveta lokho ukuthi singena futhi ku season yetimvula nako konke siyacela eMaswatini lokuthi anake kakhulu takhiwo tawo emakhaya ukuthi takheke ngendlela lefanele anake nekuthi nabo meselane labasebentako noma labakhako babangilabo labaceceshiwe noma baqualified ukuthi bangenda lo msebenzi singahambi sithatha nje umuntu ngokuthi ushiphile noma ngoba sesiyabona lokuthi ngemalanga kuyasidulela lokuthi sifune sibuyisele tindlu khanze ukuthi titsilika ngoba letingakakheki ngendlela lefanele naloko ngilokunye lokufaka isandla kakhulu ukuthi sigcine setitsilika letindlu khanze ukuthi akusuye lo muntu lona likhono lelanele lo wakha.
I-NDMA ngenhloso yokuxwayisa sive ngetehlakalo letiyaye tendeke unika sive sithombe sale kumele bakwende. I-NDMA iphindze yadumisa kutiphatha kahle kwemaswati ekuvikeleni kwanza kwemlilo kulobusika. Kubika Sethabile Mamba, anasamkelisiwe Khoza, leleti Mhlanga, eMbabane.
Litiko letisebenti ngekubanjiswa tinhlangothi letifaka ekhatsi libhange lentfutfuko lelivekati le-Afrika lichuba-ke tinhlelo tekucinisa temakhono kuleli kute kutawunciphala izinga lwekweswela ematfuba emisebenti kubantfu labasha. Lokhu kuvetwe ngumcondzisi weluhlangothi lwemakhono kuleli tiko Ernest Simelane.
Live vele lime kabi ngendzaba yokuthi bantfu labasha labaningi abakhoni kwenta imisebenzi abekho emisebentini. Nathi-ke sila i-DIVT lokumcuka kakhulu kulamalanga kubuka ukuthi sakhetha inhlelo letinengi letawenda ukuthi bantfu labasha bakhone kungena emisebentini nekuthi batisebente. Lokhu sikhuluma nje tinhlelo tethu letikhona la sinayo i-apprenticeship training sina more 250 bantwana labasetinkampanini labafundzako. Siyakubuka lokuthi uptake rate yakhona it's more than 95%. Sikhuthaza tinkampani ukuthi tiqhubeke tibathathe bantwana. Lesikwenda kulamalanga ukuthi tonke tinsita lonke lisito lolutako even la kangwane senda ukuthi sibatshele labalesa lisito lokuthi asifakeni bantwana tinkampanini batofundzela imisebenzi etinkampanini ngoba emathuba abo eqashwa abamaningi. Losikhuluma nje ukuthi nyalo kule nyanga lephelile besina 250 bantwana basetinkampanini. Sikhonile kukhuluma na ADB kwafakwa abantwana labang 50 edanyini ngemali le provide nguye AFDB. Sikhuluma ngekuthi iyakhula i-apprenticeship yetulu lamathuba emsebenzi alabo bantwana aya etulu enakwendeka kanjalo iyancipha inombolo yebantfu labasha labangekho emisebenzini. Tinhlelo ke letinye lesitibukile ngilete ukuthi bantwana lesebanawo emakhono singabendela njani ukuthi batheste bathole certificate batoba nemathuba lokuthi bahambe nabo awufuna imisebenzi noma basebenzele certificate lethu ukuthi sebenta noma wathi nje ukuthi noma uthi sebenta uyasidinga certificate ngoba naso uyofuna le mali yekusebenta bafuna kwathi la ufuna khona le mali ukuthi vele uphetheni unalo enilikhono.
Libandla lilamula tisebenti nebaqashi i-Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration Commission ithi isemkhankasweni wekusayina-ke sivumelwano nenhlangano lekhanga abahlanyela imali eSwatini, i-Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority, sekufundzisa-ke bahlanyela imali ngemitsetfo lephatselene netisebenti. Lokhu kuvetwe nguNcamiso Manana lobuketa indzabate kulandzelwa kwemtsetfo ngesikhatsi kuceceshwa lababuke emahhovisi etisebenti etinkampanini letahlukene ngendlela yekusombulula tinkinga emkhatsini wetisebenti kanye nebaqashi.
Lobuketa indzaba tekulandzelwa kwemtsetfo kasima kutsi sebavele bayisukumele etuli indzaba yekuthi bakhulumisane nebahlanyeli imali ngetemtsetfo.
Siphokophelele ekuthenini sibe nesivumelwano esithile lesitawuthi uma befika labantu sifike thina singisimaka sicale sibafundzise ngale mithetho yale live nokuthi kuqhutshwa njani la misebentini ngoba phela abantu beta baneyabo imithetho le batawufuna kuyisebenzisa ngale kansi yale emaveni lapho baqhamuka khona. Thina-ke singisimaka kutawuba ngithi lesitawuthi uma bangena nje bangaqali nalokusebenza sibafake sibafundzise ukuthi nayi indlela lekusetshenzwa ngayo.
Lababuke emahhovisi etisebenti etinkampanini letahlukene baphawula ngebumcoka bekuthi baniketwe emalungelo laphelele ekusebenta tindzaba tetisebenti.
Uma baqashi banga-understanda i-role ya-HR naloko lokubhekekile ukuthi HR akweni bekuthi phela HR akasuye wemcashi. HR ubukele ama-interests emcashi nebhizinisi kanye netisebenzi ukuze lo msebenzi uchubeke kahle.
If the employer doesn't understand the role of HR, then obviously there is going to be a conflict within the employment environment, which is again then it affects the common law. Ukuthi the employer une duty ukuthi ema-employees akhe abe aphatheke kahle.
Wonke umuntu mhlawumbe lo uta event la kangwane la ngabe athi ufuna ukuvula ibhizinisi or anything nje lengenda ukuthi kumbe aqashe bantu akube khona le manual la kumele ayilandzele.
Isimakhi khutsata abaphathi bemabhizinisi ukuthi baxhumane nayo kude bate ufundziswa kabanti ngemithetho yetisebenzi yakuleli. Lobikako nginelisiwe Ndlangamandla nginavuma inkosi inzinisa ezulwini.
Kwenyuka kwentengo yempahla i-inflation yehle kakhulu etinyangeni letengcile kusukela ngetulu kwa-4% yafika ku-2.8% enyangeni lephelile. Lokhu-ke kuvetwa ngumbiko lobuka intengo yempahla i-Consumer Price Index lekhishwe litiko letekuhlela umnotfo. Bosomnotfo-ke bathi uma intengo yempahla seyehle kakhulu kuyayilimata ibhizinisi nanome kukuhle kumthengi.
Bona singasho ukuthi kuba info lenhle kodwa kufuna sikhumbule ukuthi kuba nebhizinisi ephindze kube nemthengi. Kuyinfo lenhle kuye umthengi ukuthi utawuthenga kodwa somabhizinisi ungena ebhizinisini ukuthi atawukwakha imali and if seyingasenyuki le margin yami ngoba le margin le ngichargeako kuba ngulo mehluko ku-price nani-ke nale cost yami lengithengile ngicupha ngayo lena so inflation ngiya-esite etintweni letinjalo so nyalo lesikubuka ukuthi sesingena kunakulesi sithi i-disinflation because now ungabuka for the past 4 months the inflation figure has been going down so that's a disinflation spiral lengaba nokukhomba kokuthi akusiko nje ukuthi sikuya ku-harvest kuphela so sikukhona letinto letindikako lapha emnothweni letitshengisako ukuthi kufuna salesibuka indlela yokuvusa umnotho.
Umphathi webhizinisi eSwatini Inathi Dlamini yena uphawule kanjena.
Inflation lephansi is good for the economy. It's good for kosomabhizinisi. Nibonile ke ne-Central Bank yethu kulamalanga nje landlulile nawo irespondile ngekubona kwehla kwe-inflation yehlisa ama-interest rates. Kusho ukuthi ke nayehlisa ama-interest rates imali nawuboleka imali emabhange nakhona seyehlile kuyawasida ke bosomabhizinisi lokho ukuthi na imali idulile bavamile ukuthi baqale banga-invest kulama-businesses ukuthi ayi-expande nasishiphile uyabona-ke bese baboleka baya-expande ama-businesses abo bathenge amathuluzi ekusebenta bese kucasha abantu sikhuluma ukuthi-ke generally speaking A low inflation rate is good for business and it's good for employment.
Lokubonakala ukuthi even leNingizimu Afrika kunyuka kwentengo yetitolo nakhona sekubuye ngaphansi kwa 3%. Libhange lelikhulu kulela live iSouth African Reserve Bank seyinetinkhulumiswano tekubuketwa ukuthi ngete yashintsha yini i-inflation target range ibe semkhathini lokungu-4.5% njengobe beyiku-3% kuya ku-6%. Lobikako nginelisiwe Ndlangamandla nginavuma inkosi Nzinisa eMbabane.
Takhamuti tendzawo yasekuphumleni emoneni tikhala ngetinja kule ndzawo letibulala imfuyo yato ikakhulu timbuti kanye netimvu. Umfuyi Jerome Bembe uthi ke ngekusa kwangalesibili watfola timvu takhe letisikhombisa letinengitato lebetimitsi setifile. Titfombe letilandzelako atibalungeli labo labanenhlitiyo lencane.
Ngesikhathi inzathela lomsakati ifika ekuphumleni ithole ukuthi itekhamuti letiveliyela kaBhembe bese tivele tihlinza letimvu. Umfuyi waletimvu letisolakala kuthi tibulawe tinja Jerome Bembe uthi letimvu letisikhombisa natitsengiswa betingabiti imali linganiselwa ku-24,000 emalangeni. Bembe uyachaza.
Kufe timvu letisikhombisa. Bengifuyele kwekuthi ngitawukhicita la, bengumkhicito wami ngoba beting 8 mbabamba lenye ife last week ngekusoleka nje nato timbawu betilisikati ke kunaletinvuna ekhatsi but beke ukuthi kuyathi kuphela lomnyaka ngoba bengigatsa ukuthi tiyatala nje end of August ngathi sikuyaphela lomnyaka tiyabe maybe tibo 16 ngoba lenye nasihlinza nje la ayihlinza umakhelwane bathola ukuthi beyina2 emazinyane ngekhatsi.
Liphoyisa lemango lendzawo yala ekuphumleni emoneni Adam Msibi lithi uvamile lo mkhuba wetinja letiyayethi ibulala imfuyo kule ndzawo.
Imfuyo vele bomakhelwane siyesicabana mangese ngikhuluma kakhulu makunemalanga laphelile omnye makhelwane babamshaya khona la ngeva kusinayo indaba emfuyo ukuthi washaya imfuyo yini ukuba nguwe noma cha asakhe kuba basomsini kodwa lo ngikwatiko mina nje naleve phelile kuna wakahlanzi ngayisibayeni sakhe lengiphosa imanga ngitshela sangeke kuye ngakhanza timbuti ngithuthi bule yinja inhlanhla inja le yakuthiwe lapho yabanjwa yabonakala yakuphi inhlanhla kaBhembe ngiya kusasikatiboni takuphi vele kukhona tinja dangerous manje netinja tiningi laba angiboni kuse kondliwa inja ngahamba yokweba tinye idle timbuti kusayidli kahle.
Litiko lotekulima kanye nemaphoyisa afikile la kufele khona letimvu. Lokhu kulandzela ukuthi bekatsi kunetinsolo tekuthi uma letimvu tingakabulawa tinja tithelwe imasa 900. Dokotela wetilwane kuvisini lakaManzini itiko lotekulima Pride Shongwe uthi labakunakile nabefika kule ndzawo ukuthi tonke letimvu betikatse tinemanceba ekulunywa enzanyeni. Dokotela Shongwe uthi noma kulukhuni kwamanje kusho ukuthi tinja mbamba inivele letibulala letimvu noma ngilesinye nje silwane lesihlaselisa kwayo inja kodwa uthi ngekubuka kwakhe letimvu atikadliswa imasa 900. Ube ucwayisa sive sakule ndzawo ukuthi azivalele letinja tingadala umonakalo emfuyweni. Lobikako ngFortune Ndlangamandla ngisekuphumleni emoneni.
Tinhlelo tekwenta tinhlangothi letingaphansi kwelitiko letemtsetfo nemtsetfosisekelo tisebentisa tebuchwephesha. Tisetinhlelweni ke njengoba litiko libambe umhlangano sikolwa nabochwephesha lababuya kuletinhlangothi kutawubafundzisa ngekusebentisa lobuciko be-Integrated Electronic Case Management System.
Ngekusho kwemcondzisi walolu hlelo etiko letemtsetfo nemtsetfosisekelo Senzo Mavuso, lolu hlelo lutawucala etinhlangothini letisembabane.
Lo lehlose kona ku-integrator wona ama-stakeholders e-justice sector kokuthi akhone ukusebenzisa one common platform, one digital platform kokuthi ende wona umsebenzi welive. Yona le project ke itawusita to reduce the life cycle yayo le case. We are aware ukuthi kunema issues lokhanza ukuthi i-case mhlambe seyiyaphuta or seyabambeleleka. Most of the time mawuthi uya-tracker kuba ngoloko ukuthi ukhanze ukuthi mhlawumbe beselidile kuphi mawuthi uyambuta ukuthi ngabe belidile kuphi ukhanze into yakasisho but isolution lekaso isita lokho ukuthi sikhone lokho tracker ukuthi ngabe le solution ikuphi.
Lo wakhelo luhlelo lolutawusebentisa lobuciko Karen Avesey uthi lobuciko butawuqinisa kusebenta kwemtsetfo kuleli.
By implementing these kind of projects, the justice index of the countries are usually going up, and the international companies, other regions, other NGOs consider the countries as more safer and better in perspective of justice for the community and for the citizens.
Avetsise nothi live litawuba sezingeni letemtsetfo nalamanye emave loku kutawusita tinhlangano tangephandle kutsi tibone live lakangwane linekuthula lokutawulekelela intfutfuko nekuhlanyelwa kwetimali kuleli. Kutfutfukisa lolu hlangothi evikini leliphelile indvuna yetemtsetfo nemtsetfosisekelo umhlonishwa uMfanenkhosi Simelane yemukele emathulusi alomsebenti enhlanganweni yetentfutfuko i-UNDP lalinganiselwa ku-180,000 emalangeni. Kubika Sethabile Mamba analele timhlanga samkelisiwe Khoza eMbabane.
Umhlonishwa Ndvunankhulu Russell Dlamini sawuvalelisa iKings Baton Relay leyafika kuleli ngalesine evikini leliphelile. Leyemukelwa indvuna yetemidlalo umhlonishwa Bongani Nzima. Umhlonishwa Ndvunankhulu wendlulisele leKings Baton Relay eveni laseMalawi. Kanti-ke Ndvunankhulu uvalelise leKings Baton emahhovisini yetindvuna tembuso. Akulokunye nontsikelelo msibi loku nguyekelo watfola umklomelo wemdlali longumake odlale wagcama eminyakeni lophelile. Utsi ukhatsatekile ngendlela tinombolo tabomake labadlala umdlalo wema-darts letilincane ngakhona, ikakhulukati emichutselwaneni lefaka ekhatsi yema-National Championships. Msibi bekakhuluma uma kuchubeka imidlalo yema-National Championships esikolweni eLangeni. Tingakondzaba teSiswati sitawubahlola etimakethe sitawubuya sichubeka nehlelo.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Countries are eliminating diseases all over the world. In fact, in the last 5 years alone, 44 eliminations have been confirmed by WHO. There's one disease that, because of a global effort, no one can get anymore. Do you know which one it is? If yes, please write it down in the comments and we'll talk about it in this episode. We are talking about disease elimination today. What does it take to eliminate a disease on the ground? And what needs to happen before WHO can confirm that a disease has been eliminated? We are talking to Dr. Jerome Solomon. Welcome, Jerome.
Welcome,
Jerome, what are these diseases that have been eliminated in the past 5 years?
So many diseases, like tropical diseases, have already been eliminated. 50 countries, for example, already eliminated at least one neglected tropical disease. So that's a huge success, and because it's a very heavy burden for the population. Malaria, 55 countries already eliminated malaria, thanks to all the tools that are available. Vector controls, insecticides, bed nets, chemoprophylaxis, treatment, and now we have 2 vaccines to protect children. Important point, how we want to protect, for example, pregnant women transmit infections to their babies of HIV, hepatitis B, syphilis. We are working with many countries to eliminate this vertical transmission of very important disease. And something that maybe a lot of women don't know, we can prevent cervical cancer thanks to vaccination. You know, we have a lot of examples, and we are very, very hopeful that we will eliminate 32 diseases in the next decades.
So what needs to happen on the ground for a disease to be eliminated and for WHO to confirm that it has indeed been eliminated?
When we say elimination, it's eliminating a disease as a public health problem, as a public health concern in a region or in a country. It's a huge work because we need a strong political commitment coming from the head of state and ministries, of course. WHO is helping a lot in terms of technical assistance and guidance. We are working, for example, with education department, with agriculture department, with environment, because it's a global health, it's a One Health approach. And then the local level is the most important one, because we need to have the villages, the chiefs of the villages, the communities involved and engaged. We need also NGOs, we need the strong voice of people with lived experience. We need the young people to be also very committed to explain, to share their experience, to adapt the tools to all the populations, because we need to work without any stigma, without any discrimination, and we need all the populations to be fully engaged. We have a very important report to WHO, and then WHO can certify. Take a very concrete example, the polio eradication campaign. We need all the populations to be vaccinated. So it's very important because we are very close to eradication of polio. We have to keep in mind that the efforts should be strong, and we never stop surveillance and having in mind that this virus could be back.
So when we eliminate polio, does that mean it'll be like smallpox, gone forever?
So it's important to remind that smallpox is the only human disease that has been eradicated. It was in 1980, so it was 45 years ago, and we are still trying to eradicate a second disease, maybe Guinea worm or polio.
Jerome, what can individuals and communities do to support disease elimination?
They can do a lot. Sometimes we could say, well, neglected tropical disease or some of these diseases, I'm not concerned because I am very far away, I'm 1,000 kilometers away, I am living in a rich country that is not affected, which is a wrong idea, because it's like a fire. You could say, well, the fire is far away from my house, I don't need to call the fireman, but in fact, you could wait, and then the fire will affect your house. So having this global behavior, meaning we are all committed, we are all affected. I think even individuals in rich countries could really convince their government that we need a global health architecture, that we need a global health surveillance, and we need a global commitment to fight communicable disease and tropical diseases. You can be strong ambassadors of public health, sharing messages, teaching people, reaching the unreachable of your communities. We are living on a very small planet, it's a small village. We all have a role to play.
Thank you, Jerome. That was Science in 5 today. Until next time, then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stick with science.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Namhla siphinde sikwamukele ehlelweni siqhubeka nehlelo sifuna kubuka i-traffic update noSipho Maseko sikuvusele kubonye ngabe namhla uma nisipopolele imigwaqo nisiphathelene.
Ngabanye Nkosi angikuvusele nalamhla ekuseni ngiphinde ngivusele naye umbukeli wemsakazo Iswazi TV. Imigwaqo yelizwe laseSwatini sesiyihlolile iyahambeka kusa nje kwanamhla sivuka nato phela tinkhungu etindzaweni letiphakeme ikakhulu eMbabane, eMangayane nakaHlatsi. Bashayeli ke bayaxwayiswa ukuthi abashayeli ngekucophelela bakhanyise amalambu abo ukuze batawukhona kubonana. Ngalokunye nawehla Malagwane ubheke khona kaManzini lapha eBahai kune truck lefele emgwaqweni kuye phela ilane leya kaManzini. Bashayeli ke baxwayisa ukuthi abashayeli ngekucophelela basedla Malagwane ukuze batawufika baphephilela baya khona. Tibaneke temgwaqo letingasebenzi nguleti lapha kaManzini eNetbank nase-Remand Center. Bashayeli ke baxwayisa ukuthi abahloniphane babeketelelane bafike kuqala nike lona lithuba lokuthi ahambe kuqala. Endasi eBig Bend lapha enzaweni yakumtinzweka eBlohweni umgwaqo wethu wenile kakhulu tihlahla tilengela ekhathi emgwaqweni. Bashayeli ke baxwayiswa ukuthi abashayeli ngekucophelela lokukhulu umgwaqo wethu siyabona ukuthi sowunciphile ngenxa yemena. Ngalokunye eBig Bend uyachubeka umsebenzi wekuvuna wona umoba ayaphithizela emaloli angena ayaphuma emshinini. Bashayeli baxwayiswa nakhona ukuthi kube khona kubeketelelana phela basahamba emgwaqweni ukuze batawufika ngesikhathi la khona. Inkhomo iyachubeka ke tiba sikhinyabeto etindzaweni letahlukahlukene ikakhulu kumhlaba ubovu ubheke khona eBhunya, Ngogola ubheke khona eStegi, eMdumezulu ubheke khona eSikhuphe, nanawusuka khona nguMandla Ngambisi ubheke khona Zihoye. Ingakho lenginato namhla ekuseni ngaba inkosi.
Singakho Ngcamane sethembe ukuthi babukeli nebaqhubi bethu motoro nema-pedestrians nje atawuti nakaleto tsikabeto lesawuti balila beketele ke nalapho liyacelwa ukuthi beketele khona 57 minutes after 6 sitawuchubeka netindzaba tetfu uma sibuya emakethe.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Fuminas asashone kude lodawati kuthula la kamanyazi cha
Police up there.
Ngiko phela lokulezama ukubalekela ukuthi singumndeni simunye sivale kwazana sonke.
Yini lamanyana lawa wena uyaphila kahle la? Angeke uyimele lempilo ufuna kuyisusa. Utawushaka kabuhlungu.
What the hell is going on? Don't touch me. What is she doing here?
Angicabanga sinecabanga sesine le nto le. Angesabi impi mina. I need to talk to her.
Sorry. Ma, kokhula sitagcina sibonela sejubile nyana.
Hi, sweetie. Eugene.
I'm pissed.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. His Majesty King Mswati III is in Japan, where he will join other leaders at the 9th International Conference on African Development, TICAD 9. His Majesty was warmly received at Haneda International Airport by the Japan TICAD 9 designated ambassador, His Excellency Matsunaga Kazuyoshi. The King leads a high-powered delegation comprising their Royal Highnesses and ministers.
After a highly successful working visit to Madagascar, His Majesty King Mswati III has arrived in Japan, where he will participate in the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development. His Majesty the King and Inkosikati Magela Matsebula were warmly received by the Japan TICAD 9 ambassador, His Excellency Matsunaga Kazuyoshi, upon arrival at Haneda International Airport. His Majesty leads a high-level delegation comprising their Royal Highnesses Prince Longokela, Princess Sipila and Chief Sigeza Dlamini of Ngqina. The cabinet ministers accompanying the king are the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Senator Polile Shakantu, the Minister of Economic Planning and Development, Dr. Tambo Gina, and the Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Senator Mangoba Kumalo. The TICAD conference was established by the government of Japan in 1993 in partnership with the United Nations, the African Union, the United Nations Development Programme and the World Bank. The ambassador of the Kingdom of Eswatini to the African Union, His Excellency Mahlaba Mamba, says the conference will provide participating countries with an opportunity to present development projects to Japan for potential support.
It is Japan njengabantu on an equal partnership singani lekelela ngakuphi siniside ngakuphi lokho kufaka tonke tinhlangothi letifaka nje lokuyintuthuko ku-Afrika lekudzingako tekulima temfundo nisini technology okusha ngeSiswati tebuchwephesha cishe konke lokho iAfrika lenyalo ikudzinga ikakhulukati lakangwane leliphokophele kwekuthi lifuna kufika esigabeni sekuba live nalo lelithuthukile. Lo mhlangano ke lo iJapan ngoba yona seyisembili ngetekuthuthuka, it's an industrialized nation. Inawo futhi lama resources.
The ambassador says His Majesty the King will emphasize peace as the foundation of Africa's development.
Leti tekuphepha nekusimama kwelive kwemhlaba kweAfrika ngiko lokunye leyitawufika ingwenyama ibethele kona kuthi lakangwane liphila siphi yini lelingathi ithekela embili.
Set to open on Wednesday, the conference will run under the theme Co-creating Innovative Solutions with Africa. The ministers accompanying His Majesty the King will participate in various activities aligned with their respective portfolios as the conference will address multiple aspects of development. This has been a news report by Sandile Makanya and Tabiso Dlamini, reporting from Yokohama, Japan.
On behalf of government and the nation, the Prime Minister, Russell Dlamini, has congratulated His Majesty King Mswati III for being elected as the Deputy Chairperson of the SADC Troika organ.
On behalf of His Majesty's government, I extend our warmest congratulations to His Majesty King Mswati III on his appointment as Deputy Chairperson of the SADC organ on Politics, Defense and Security Cooperation, Troika. This esteemed role heralds His Majesty's upcoming position as the incoming Chairperson of the Troika next year, further underscoring his enduring commitment to regional stability and peace. His Majesty's leadership in advancing Africa's peace and security agenda is both historic and exemplary, as demonstrated during his tenure as Troika Chairperson from 2010 to 2011. His visionary interventions during that period remain a testament to his dedication to fostering peace and security across the continent. This appointment coincides with Eswatini's recent election as a member of the African Union Peace and Security Council, representing the Southern Africa region, a further affirmation of the nation's pivotal role as a champion of peace and security in Africa. Once again, we congratulate His Majesty the King on this well-deserved recognition of his wise and noble leadership, which continues to inspire both the region and the global community. Baete, wena parat.
The Eswatini Higher Education Council says Eswatini continues to face a serious challenge of skills mismatching, which the council is working on addressing. This was said by ISHEC Acting Chief Executive Dr. Kusile during a capacity building workshop for local higher education institutions.
The Eswatini Higher Education Council, ISHEC, hosted a capacity building workshop for higher education institutions in the country. Speaking during the event, ISHEC Acting Chief Executive Officer Dr. Kusile said Eswatini continues to face a serious challenge of skills mismatching, where graduates' qualifications do not fully meet the demands of the labor market.
Loku kakhulu is the skills mismatches and ema skills gap. Another thing lesi engage ngayo ema institutions namuhla nema entry requirements bumcoka bawo kuthi kumcoka kangakanani kwekuthi ungene lapho uvunyelwa khona ngema credits akho. Another thing lesikhulumisile namuhla i-academic integrity kwekuthi kudzingeke ngani kwekuthi as higher education institutions sikhulume ngema students efu kwekuthi phela kukhona ema ethics ngekufuna si guide kufundza kwethu in our higher education institutions.
Speaking on behalf of the institution, Ngwane Teachers Training College lecturer Vincent Gunene said this workshop seeks to strengthen institutional capacity and align higher education with national priorities.
Sinazi tinhlelo tetfu sitimise ngalendlela yokuthi laba lesibakhicitako sikhicita abantu labatsingakalako lapho batawufike basebente khona babambe lichaza lelibonakalako.
The National Skills Anticipation Study by ISHEC says total employment is projected to grow by 12.2% over a period of 12 years. Reporting Samgalsiwe Khoza and Sitabile Mamba Manzini.
The Disaster Management Agency is encouraging Amaswati to prepare as the summer rains are approaching. This follows that a majority of people who are disaster-stricken are usually ignorant in preparing themselves and structures they live in. The CEO at NDMA, Victor Matlalela, asked the nation to help the agency in preparedness.
The Chief Executive Officer at the NDMA, Victor Matlalela, says the agency cannot assist those who need assistance in terms of preparing because they have limited resources.
Going into the summer season that we are coming into, we understand that normally due to climate change and all the impacts of climate change, we have now erratic rainfalls, we have flood events, we have cyclone events, we have lightning, we have all these hazards are happening at the same time within the same season. So we would like to encourage the citizens of Eswatini to ensure that they are prepared for this by making sure that they retrofit their structures at household level to make sure that they withstand the pressure that was going to come with the summer season the resources that we always get from government and the development partners to attend to different disaster incidences that we have will never be enough to address all the problems. So Eswatini will not, should not fold their arms and wait for NDMA or wait for government to assist. But we are encouraging Eswatini to make sure that they do something prior to the event. So we need to invest in preparedness and invest in prevention before the event.
The NDMA, in efforts to provide timely disaster predictions, they update the nation to give awareness. NDMA also applauds Eswatini for adhering to precautions put in place during windy days in terms of burning. Reporting is Sethabile Mamba, Samgelisiwe Khoza, Leleti Mhlanga in Babane.
The Ministry of Labour and Social Security says with support from development partners like the African Development Bank is strengthening apprentice training programs. This was said by the Director of the Directorate of Industrial and Vocational Training, Ernest Simelane.
Being having around 250 apprentices who are in training, and the uptake rate is around 90 to 95%, which gives them a high opportunity of employment. So after seeing that this is a very good effort, then we are making all efforts to upscale to make sure that we have more of them in the companies. As we are speaking right now, a few weeks ago, we have enrolled more than 50 apprentices in Pagani Dam, courtesy of ADP. And we're actually inviting many companies to say that let us put these youths in these employment sites so that they get an advantage of getting experience and getting exposure towards employment. We are also making efforts to increase the number of trade tests. As we are speaking this year, we have registered more than 1,700 youths for trade testing. And you know that even if you are going to be self-employed, you still need a certification so that you can be able to present when you're looking for funding to start your own job. But actually, it also helps to look for company employment because you need certification. So we think that these efforts will give the youth a lot of advantage in terms of gaining employment. We are also working with the Minister of Education to develop short programs that will allow the youths to accelerate early entrance to the economy.
The Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration Commission is set to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority to equip investors with essential knowledge of Eswatini's labor laws. The strategic partnership comes in response to concerns raised by human resources professionals who noted that some investors may be unaware of the country's labor regulations. The issue came to light during a recent collective bargaining and negotiation skills workshop that was held at Eswatini.
This is a genuine concern because some of them come with their own ways of doing things that are prevalent in their countries. What we are seeking to do as a commission is to get into a memorandum of understanding with APA so that when the investors come into the country and before they start operating, we can train them, induct them on the labor laws of the country.
Some human resources practitioners have raised concerns that their roles are often undermined, particularly in companies led by foreign investors who may not be fully aware of Eswatini's labor laws. They believe this lack of understanding sometimes prevents them from fully exercising their duties.
Uma baqashi banga-understanda i-role ya-HR naloko lokubhekekile ukuthi HR akweni bekuthi phela HR akasuye wemqashi. HR ubukele ama-interests emqashi nebhizinisi kanye netisebenzi ukuze lo msebenzi uchubeke kahle.
If the employer doesn't understand the role of HR, then obviously there's going to be a conflict within the employment employment environment, which is again then it affects the common law. Would see the employer une duty ukuthi ema-employees akhe abe aphatheke kahle.
Wonke umuntu mhlambe lo uta-event la kangwane la ngabe athi ufuna ukuvula ibhizinisi or anything nje lengenda ukuthi kumbe aqashe bantu akube khona le manual la kumele ayilandzele.
In addition, CIMAC officials have encouraged companies to reach out for clarity on any labor-related issues, stressing that the Commission is always available to offer guidance and support. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Ezulwini.
The headline inflation rate last month was 2.8%, the lowest in months. These figures are contained in the Consumer Price Index report released by the Ministry of Economic Planning. But the question becomes, what is it that they show when they are such low, and what the rate means for business that relies on sales to drive profits? Economists warn that lower inflation can pose challenges for such companies. Business Eswatini has also shared their view.
On the short to medium term, it could be good for the consumer because that means prices are relatively stable and we're able to purchase more of the commodities that we want and need. So it stretches the value of the lilangeni. But however, what we worry about is we need to find what the source of this disinflation spiral is, in the sense that if it is a disinflation that is caused by the fact that, consumers just are not even buying, even at the current level, then now that's something to be worried about.
Business Eswatini's Chief Executive Officer Inathi Dlamini had this to say.
Is when prices go up, only a few people can afford the goods, which means you lose a bulk of your market because of price increases. For the short term, you can make money, but for the longer term, it's not good for business. So we advocate for a lower interest rate environment. So right now it's hovering around 2.8%. What does it mean to businesses? It means businesses now can access funding cheaper from banks because interest rates have responded to the lower inflation. It means businesses can fund the retooling their businesses, expanding, venturing into new projects, and as such in creating value, and indeed even creating employment opportunities for our people.
The primary debate in South Africa, Eswatini's largest trading partner, regarding inflation centers on whether to lower the current 3% to 6% inflation target range, with the central bank advocating for a lower target, possibly around 3%. South Africa's inflation target range is currently 3 to 6%, with the South African Reserve Bank aiming for the midpoint of 4.5%. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
Residents of Ekupumleni in Moneni are complaining about dogs in the area that are killing their livestock, especially goats and sheep. Farmer Jerome Bembe said that on Tuesday morning he found 7 of his sheep, most of them that were pregnant, dead.
When the news crew arrived at Ekupumleni, they found residents already gathered around the dead sheep and skinning them. The farmer of the sheep, believed to have been killed by dogs, Jerome Bembe, says the 7 sheep were worth about 24,000 emalangeni. Bembe explains.
Kufeta imvu letisikhombisa bengifuyele kwekuthi ngitawukhicita la bengumkhicito wami ngoba beting-8 mbabambamba lenye ife last week.
He says he had planned to rear and sell the sheep. He says most of them were pregnant and expected to give birth. He anticipated having 16 sheep before the end of the year.
Ngifuyo vele bomakhelwane siyasicabana mangese ngikhuluma kakhulu kunamalanga laphelile omnye makhelwane babamshaya khona la ngeva kusinayo indaba emfuyo ukuthi washaya imfuyo yini kwaba nguwe noma cha asathi.
Ekupumleni Community Police, Adam Msibi, says it is a common problem in the area that dogs attack and kill livestock. He adds that last week 2 goats from another homestead were also attacked and killed by dogs. He says there are many dangerous dogs in the area and suspected that their owners do not feed them properly. The Ministry of Agriculture and the police arrived at the scene where the sheep were found. This followed suspicions that if the sheep were not killed by dogs, they might have been poisoned with Master 900. Veterinarian Dr. Pride Shongwe from the Ministry of Agriculture in Manzini says when they arrived, they discovered all the sheep had fresh neck wounds from bites. Dr. Shongwe says even though it is difficult at this stage to confirm whether the dogs were really the ones that killed the sheep or whether it was another animal that attacks like dogs, her observations is that The ship had not been poisoned with Maisa 900. She warns residents in the area to keep their dogs tied up to prevent damage to livestock. Reporting Fortune Dlangamandla. Ekuphumleni.
One of the most consequential takeaways from Monday's meetings at the White House was the plan for a meeting between Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says that summit is tentatively planned to take place within 2 weeks, while French President Emmanuel Macron proposed Geneva as the possible venue, with Switzerland saying it's ready to give immunity to Vladimir Putin, who's under an international arrest warrant currently.
It's the worst barrages of drone attacks since the start of the month. Putin's foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, still leaving the door slightly ajar for diplomacy.
As we're about to sit down, a hot mic picked up this conversation between the US and French presidents.
Yeah, I think to set up a trilateral. And where do you want to? I think he wants to make it. I think he wants to make a deal for me. You understand? As crazy as it sounds.
This after Donald Trump paused Monday's talks to call his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin. He later indicated that the next step would likely be a one-on-one meeting between Putin and Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, and then trilateral talks, including the United States. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who also attended the White House event, has confirmed that a summit between Ukraine and Russia is expected, quote, within the next 2 weeks. French leader Emmanuel Macron suggested Geneva could host such a meeting, and Swiss authorities say they're ready to give Putin, who's wanted for war crimes, immunity during the talks.
The Federal Council has already defined the legal situation. It defined the procedures and rules and outlined the framework for, let's say, granting immunity to a person under an international arrest warrant, if that person comes for a peace conference.
The developments come amid worries that the US would press Ukraine to make painful concessions, notably to cede a significant portion of territory to Russia in exchange for peace. Stressing that any top-level meeting must be prepared thoroughly before it can take place, Russia's foreign minister had this to say.
Territorial changes are often an essential component of conflict resolution. There are many such examples.
Donald Trump has recently said land swapping will be key to any potential deal, though no Russian territory is on the table for trade.
Russian President Vladimir Putin made it clear in his meeting with US President Donald Trump in Alaska last week. Full control.
Over the roads of Donbass, kilometers of netting strung up by Ukrainians to block Russian drones.
It's against drones.
Why are you installing them here?
That's a military secret.
As the future of Donbass has become the center of negotiations between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington, the war continues and Russia is making progress. Putin's condition to end the war is clear: seize the entire region, including the cities still held by Ukraine. A prospect that enrages residents of Kramatorsk, a mining city still holding out against Russian offensives.
I'd rather die than be Putin's slave. He wants our land? No, impossible.
What I fear the most is that they abandon us. I'm from Kramatorsk. I've been fighting for this land since 2022.
In Kramatorsk, most people speak Russian, many even have relatives in Russia, but they refuse to give up the region.
You can speak Russian and still be a true Ukrainian patriot. If they abandon us, if Russia comes, we will leave. We won't stay. Our men would feel humiliated if we gave up Donbass. They're dying at the front. So many soldiers have already gone, and they expect us to surrender?
These are Ukrainians who won't give up their land or its riches. Donbas holds Ukraine's largest coal reserves and rare earth deposits that Moscow is determined to claim.
Mediators were awaiting an Israeli response on Tuesday to a fresh Gaza ceasefire plan, a day after Hamas accepted the proposal and signaled its readiness for a new round of talks that are aimed at ending nearly 2 years of war. What exactly is included in this plan? Here's a report.
Blocking a major thoroughfare, Israeli banners read, "Never again is now." And what about the hostages? The midweek instalment of what has become a much larger protest movement in the country.
The only thing that works is putting pressure on the Israeli government to make a deal, to seal the deal and bring all of our hostages back and stop the war in Gaza. We will not stop until all our hostages are home.
This as Hamas accepted a ceasefire proposal on Monday in Cairo, making Prime Minister Netanyahu the last holdout. A proposal Israel has previously agreed to, in essence, argued Qatari mediators.
Concerning the response from Hamas, as we said, we view it in a positive light. It truly was almost identical to what the Israeli side had previously agreed to. So we see this response as a positive approval.
The agreement entails a 60-day ceasefire, the release of 200 Palestinian detainees, the return of half of the hostages, and a partial withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Strip. Israel are now studying the Hamas response. But as the government makes plans to re-enter and reoccupy Gaza City, signing it would go starkly against their latest announcements.
I discussed our plans for the city of Gaza and the completion of our missions with the defense minister and the chief of staff. And like you, I hear the media reports. And they give one clear impression. Hamas is under atomic pressure.
Meanwhile, on Tuesday, Gazans mourned loved ones once again.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met China's top diplomat on Tuesday and hailed the steady progress that has been made in improving the bilateral relationship after a years-long standoff between the nuclear-armed Asian powers.
The red carpet is rolled out for Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in New Delhi amid efforts to mend ties between the nuclear-armed neighbours after a years-long standoff over border clashes. Following a meeting with Wang, Indian Premier Narendra Modi posted that steady progress had been made. The thaw began last year when he met Chinese President Xi Jinping at a summit of emerging economies in Russia.
I look forward to our next meeting in Tianjin on the sidelines of the SCO summit. Stable, predictable, constructive ties between India and China will contribute significantly to regional as well as global peace and prosperity.
Ahead of his meeting with the Indian Prime Minister, Wang met India's National Security Advisor. Trade, diplomacy and air travel between India and China have been restricted since clashes in 2020 worsened a decades-old border dispute.
We're heartened to see the stability that is now restored in the borders. History and reality prove once again that a healthy and stable China-India relationship serves the fundamental and long-term interests of both of our countries.
Wang also said China had allowed Indian pilgrims to visit the Tibet Autonomous Region again. Meanwhile, outside the venue, Tibetan protesters chanted anti-China slogans before Indian police swooped in to arrest them.
Tibet is never a part of China! Tibet belongs to Tibet, and we want our country to be free!
India and China's renewed engagement comes at a time when New Delhi's ties with Washington are fraying after Donald Trump imposed steep tariffs on India and made public overtures to India's arch-rival, Pakistan.
French authorities have opened an investigation into the death of a 46-year-old man during a live stream on the Kick platform. Raphael Graven had amassed hundreds of thousands of followers on social media after starring in live video streams during which he was subjected to physical violence, humiliation, and sleep deprivation.
His death has sent shockwaves across France and online communities. Raphael Graven, better known as Jean Pormeneuve, was found dead at his home in Contes near Nice on Monday.
Yo les gars, salut, nouvelle vidéo YouTube.
According to reports, the 46-year-old influencer died in his sleep during a live stream on Kick, an online platform where users can interact with each other and streamers with options to subscribe or tip. It's understood that 3 other online personalities appeared alongside Graven in the stream, during which he was subjected to physical violence and sleep deprivation. The video amassed around €36,000 over nearly 5 hours before the feed was cut when the other participants realised Graven was dead.
What are most games about? Escapism? Killing.
An incident reminiscent of an episode in the latest season of the dystopian Netflix series Black Mirror, which was condemned by France's Digital Affairs and Artificial Intelligence Minister.
The death of Jean Pormenov and the violence he was subjected to are absolutely horrific. My condolences are with his family and his friends. Jean Pormenov was humiliated and mistreated for months during live streams on the platform Kick.
Graven had hundreds of thousands of followers across his various social media accounts. His page on Kick is no longer available. His death has sparked concerns over a dangerous streaming culture and criticism of Kick, which is known to have a more relaxed content policy than its competitors. An investigation into Graven's death is now underway. The incident has also been referred to France's media regulator and a system used to report online content.
The Prime Minister, Russell Lamini, has handed over the King's baton relay to the Republic of Malawi. Well, that's it. That marks the end of our English news. We have an interview awaiting after the break.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.za.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi.
Aba research bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna senze ukukhicita lokusembili.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
nangiyobeleka bekunalomnye sisi nje satholana lesibhedlela singadani ukuthi sibelekele umuntu munye.
Ngingasho ukuthi umntwana ngiyamehluleka ngumuzi. Sathi ungathi umlahla.
Mina bengiphila impilo yokuhlala ngigijima ngaso sonke isikhathi ngikuba bede badala. Ngakumva nami ngitolela naye emapayipini kuNkulunkulu tosisiza.
Akabuyele emuva akhulume amaqiniso. Asuyanyaza tena. Angithethi. Into wathi ngimdala. Akasudlala lo mntwana ngayo.
Welcome back. The time now is exactly 25 minutes to 8. But before we get to 8 o'clock, let's have this one interview for the show where the Eswatini Tourism Indaba that kicks off today presents a unique opportunity for Eswatini to unlock its full tourism potential and contribute significantly to the nation's economic development, which is why now in the studio I'm joined by product developer at the Hospitality and Tourism Association of Eswatini, Vusani Matsebula, to unpack, what tourism is actually without hospitality. A very good morning to you and welcome to our studios, Mkol. Allow me to start us off. Take us back to 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes.
We had COVID, we saw restrictions in terms of movements, we saw shutdowns. What was the tourism sector like for Eswatini? Was it thriving, and how are we adapting post, the pandemic?
Thank you very much for having me. In terms of how tourism has grown from when COVID was affecting the whole world, basically Swaziland was affected greatly because there was shutdown. The whole world shut down and foreigners were not allowed to visit most countries. So Swaziland was affected greatly by that. But since then, we have improved and grown immensely because as hotels, for example, we came together and we started working on initiatives to try and promote tourism again. It's like we're doing something new because people had already kind of like stopped going and visiting other countries because they were afraid of COVID. So we had to create and curate ways of showing them our attractions in different countries, Eswatini mainly, of what people can see and what they would experience when they come to Eswatini by creating different experiences, cultural experiences, using the advantage of culture, especially in Eswatini, because that's something unique from all over the world. So I would say we have basically grown a lot, and the numbers, as most of you must have heard from ETA when they pronounced and basically told the country how much money that we are making through tourism, which I don't have the numbers at the moment, but it is evident that we are going forward and we are growing and improving on that.
Right, and domestic tourism?
Yes.
What do you make of that, just that part of tourism in itself? And as much as we can have initiative as a country to bring in more tourists, but what about the Emaswati that we have in the country? Are they visiting their establishments?
Yes.
Just, as much.
So the fact that you're touching on that is actually interesting because as part of Tourism Kwe initiative that we're doing, we've also created packages and prizes where we are giving away prizes for Emaswati only to experience tourism in Eswatini, because we're trying to promote Swazi tourism to Swaziland as well, because most people actually don't understand that we have so much beauty that we can show off, and you can actually experience and feel like a tourist in Eswatini without having to go out of the country. So we're giving away prizes to encourage people to travel around, but also as hotels and working with different partners like ETA, we also come together and create packages nowadays, packages which are not only orientated for foreigners to come into the country, but they also trying to attract locals to experience tourism in Eswatini.
As you speak of tourism, Kwe, today marks the beginning of the inaugural tourism indaba, as I had mentioned, and it's marketed as an investment platform. When you look at the sector holistically, the tourism and hospitality industry, as the association, are there investment gaps?
Well, I think there is a lot of investment gaps and there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of improvement as well that we can do if we work together, which is basically the reason we have things like hotels, which is a hospitality association, to try and work with government, work with ETA, Eswatini tourism, to break those gaps, to actually fix certain things that can improve tourism and open up and create more jobs for Eswatini as well. So we are working together and curating different strategies that can help us to improve Eswatini and break the gaps that are actually affecting tourism to improve, to grow, using international tourism and local tourism. So I would say we are very much coming together and working towards a greater future. You know, an example of that is this Tourism Kwe initiative that we are trying to work on now. This is the first one, but we're not planning on ending with this one. And we are going to be discussing different points at Tourism Kwe that we are not only just going to discuss and shake hands and eat and leave, but we are going to ask for an action plan. We are going to do follow-ups and see if we have actually achieved what we are trying to do to fix those gaps, which I'm going to mention later on as well.
Right. Now, as the association, I want to say you are the biggest stakeholder. You're the stakeholders mostly on the ground. Yes. You're working with Tories. And looking ahead at this Indaba, you said that there are gaps. Yes. What are some of the gaps that are actually affecting the growth or, you know, the thriving, just the tourism sector in the country? What are some of the gaps that are existing there? Besides investment, besides some of the other challenges?
Well, there's different factors that affect tourism. For example, visas. I can touch on visas. The process of visa applications in the country is still a little bit more unadvanced compared to other processes that are used in other countries. So we're planning on discussing points like that to find a way to improve, innovate, and hopefully jump into using technology and innovate the visa application process, because at the moment it doesn't really work very greatly for the country, and it does affect the number of tourists that can come into the country. So we're working on different factors like the visa application. We're also looking at the ease of business, and of course, when I mention ease of business, for example, payment gateways. Payment gateways is one of the huge factors that is affecting tourism in the country because, like for instance, in the transport sector, the tourists will come and visit the country, but they don't have cash. So they need to make payments through some sort of a payment gateway that can be accessible while, for example, the transport is on the way, heading to whatever destination, or when they arrive at the airport, or whatever areas that they arrive at, they need to be able to access these payment gateways flexibly and easy. So those are some of the points that we'll be discussing because we need to improve on that. Eswatini is still, we do have payment gateways infrastructures that have been introduced recently, and we need to improve on that and find ways to expand those payment gateway strategies into local areas as well, because as tourism leaders, we also want to improve and help communities to benefit in tourism, because for an example, the cultural part of Eswatini is a huge tourism attraction, and it's mostly in the rural areas. So we need them to benefit and local communities to benefit from that. But also we need them to be able to afford and provide those services, like easily accept certain payments without having to carry cash, you know. And it's also improving securities, because most travelers, they don't want to be carrying money with them because they're worried about anything that can happen because of being seen with money. So we need to improve and work on those areas. So we're looking at different strategies to work on that. And another one will be, for example, permits, which has to also affect tourism. You know, there's certain permits that you need in order for you to operate in the tourism sector and transportation, either locally, internationally. All of those affect tourism greatly. So we need to find a way to improve them, fast track, and make it flexible and easy for Eswatini to access these services so that they can help in growing the tourism sector that we're working on.
All right, I'd like for you to expand on the issue with regards to visas. Yes. You know, these are often documented as a barrier for many African countries, you know, having robust tourism sector. Entry to one country, I understand there are regulations. But if, as a country, we have, I would say, we're positioning ourselves as an ideal destination. The ETA has a target, or the Ministry of Tourism has a target of about 2 million visitors.
Yes.
And, the Minister of Commerce often goes out and says Eswatini is open for business.
Yes.
But are we open for business when it comes to specific things? What about actually having to receive people and making it easy for them to actually set foot into the country?
Yes, that's an interesting question because that's one of the subjects, that's one of the major subjects that we'll be discussing during Tourism Kwe. Because the visa application process, as you know, it's more manual, it's actually, it's also risky. In terms of you need to be moving around with people's passports just to get them stamped. And also investors. We need to look
into... As the operators, you're moving around?
Yes, as the operator, just to deeper into that, if I can explain. For example, as a travel agent, you've got people coming from China. They want to visit here. So they book with you completely. Then we have to ask for their passports, and then we write a letter to the Ministry of...
Home Affairs.
Yes, the Ministry of Home Affairs. We write a letter to the Ministry of Home Affairs, and then the ministry is going to do their verification processes and provide us with some sort of a approval letter. So we take the letter to the border or the airport to welcome these guests with that letter. But that process, we still need to take the passports and take them back to the ministry for the final verification, and once the ministry has done the final verification, take the passports back to the airport or the border for stamping. So, and then we take them back to the guests. But they do allow the guests to come into the country, which is a good thing. But still, the process is a bit hideous. So we are looking at discussing ways of improving that. Obviously, because the rest of the world is using digital systems and technology to do that. Like on arrival, you can easily apply for a visa using online and actually pay for it and go in without most going through the process that is more, it's too hideous like that. And that is going to attract more investors to come into the country because most investors, they will avoid probably coming to Eswatini because they're thinking, I have to go through that paperwork, and maybe some people are not even comfortable just sharing and going around without their passports and stuff like that. So we're looking at requesting and obviously sitting down with government to discuss with them and find ways that they can improve this process. And I'm excited that the government has been doing a lot of technology improvements. So this would probably be a subject that they will jump in and look into working on, if they're not already working on. But it's a subject that we'll be discussing. And we need to improve that so that it can attract more people from coming into the country.
Right. The tourism sector is huge. Different players, different operators, from transport to travel agents, booking agents, to also, accommodation, the operators, hotel operators. With this Indaba, how can you then mobilize, I would say, or forge partnerships, especially for the new entrants, to ensure that the growth is not just there for the guys that are already in the industry, but it's also beneficial, or the investment opportunities are also beneficial to the players that are upcoming?
Yes. So if you remember, the king actually did mention specifically that Swazis must work on creating more jobs. So that command coming from the throne, us as hotels and the hospitality leaders, we've come together to make it happen. So even during the Indaba, there is a presentation that we'll be doing where we are working and looking at ways to work with communities. Communities is one of our main targets in terms of community tourism is underlooked and not really benefiting the communities. So we want to fix that. So we were looking at working with communities now directly so that they can benefit directly in terms of creating jobs for them, and they take part in providing the services to tourism. So that will automatically be answering the king's question of creating more jobs. So we are very excited about that. So that is one of the subjects that we'll be discussing during Tourism Kwe. As I can mention that the reason of us coming together with the initiative of Tourism Kwe is to put down all these bullet points and plans of improving tourism, creating more jobs, more security, ease of business, and then come up with an action plan.
but not us only as hotels, because as hotels, we are the private sector of the hospitality of the Eswatini, but government needs to play a huge role in this happening because they are basically the owners of the tourism sector. So we are going to be discussing subjects and points that will definitely jump into improving and creating more jobs for locals as well.
I understand it's going to be, quite a conference, discussing the tourism, the growth of the tourism sector in the country. It's the Indaba in itself, it's probably creating temporary buzz. We can talk about it, but then beyond the talk, beyond the speeches, beyond the 2 days, how then will hotels ensure that the investments, that will probably be pledged, or the investment frameworks that will be there or discussed on, are actually translated to long-term deals and more revenue streams for the communities, for the operators as well?
Yes. The only way we can do that is first by doing what we're doing now, coming together. We're going to be doing a golf tournament, first of all, which will basically be different sectors coming together and internationals coming together, high-ranking officials coming together for a golf tournament. And the golf tournament is more of one of the biggest sectors that it contribute in tourism and inter-country tourism exchange. So after that, we're going to be having a dinner. So during the dinner and our sit-down at the Indaba, the main day Indaba panel, we are going to be documenting, and as we discuss these points, we are going to be requesting for action plans. We're going to be requesting for delivery dates. And then we are going to do a follow-up event again next year. The same tourism where Indaba will be hosted again next year. Now, next year, we are not only introducing these points, we are now discussing what have we done. Can we now show and show Eswatini that we've done this and we discussed this and this is what we have achieved out of that. We'll come back with numbers, we'll come back with statistics. So people will be held accountable. And since we're obviously going public and this is a public thing that we're doing, people will be held accountable and be expected to give back answers and say how and what have they done to improve this so that more jobs can be created, so that more opportunities can be created in the country, tourism can be improved, it can become more flexible, and make sure that everything that we're going to be discussing comes back and it provides the results. We're going to be doing a follow-up.
Right. I want to bring you back to this now. ETA released statistics that, the July statistics have it that we received at least 88,707 tourists this month, and the emerging markets are Tanzania, Lesotho, and Malawi. We are competing, in as much as we have travel agreements with many other countries in the region. I'll make example of the Triland, where we compete with South Africa, Mozambique. These are countries that have, I would say, strong hotel brands.
Yes.
How can hotels in the country position themselves, in a manner that they attract investors and are competitive in the region?
Yes. Okay, thank you for asking that question, because it's an initiative that we have been doing with hotels, this one. It's called Spotlight Eswatini. Yeah, so during Spotlight Eswatini, we also go out of Eswatini to create our own environment where we are now promoting Eswatini tourism outside of Eswatini, discussing with tourism representatives from outside of countries, possible investors. Like this year, we did one 2 months ago in Sandton, and then we went to Pretoria.
And recently ETA was in Mozambique.
Yes, and recently ETA was in Mozambique. It's the same initiative. It's just that we haven't gone out of other countries like Tanzania, which I'm pretty sure that we're going to be jumping into those possibilities in the near future. But we have also started doing our own, where we make sure that we are now taking Swazi tourism out of Eswatini and presenting it to other countries to show them that this is what we have. How can we work together using your resources and our resources to create an inter-country exchange, a longer kind of experience where people can go to South Africa, after they come to Swaziland, from there go to Mozambique and so forth. So we're trying to do these spotlights because it is an opportunity where you meet possible investors and other tourism leaders that can actually work with us. And we were part of that, and we created that. And it's been, I think it's a very good initiative that is going to provide those results of us selling our tourism out of the country as well.
Right.
And in the near future, obviously, this is an initiative that has to go all the way out of Africa as well, because that's where most tourism is, that is attracted to African tourism. So it's just an initiative that we have started doing, but obviously we're going to grow from there. And the only way we can grow is if we work together with, obviously, Eswatini tourism and our government, because it is not just a one sector's job. It's different sectors, because we all have a contribution to make this happen.
In 30 seconds, Mkhulu, after the Indaba, what does a robust tourism sector in Eswatini look like? Perhaps give it 5 years. 5 years?
We're going to have international flights in the country. I see us having big golf tournaments, events that are attracting superstars from all over the world.
Right.
I see our culture being showcased in international countries, because it is the most unique, attractive culture that we have in the world. So out of those 3 points, I see it growing. I see us in the biggest growth that we've done. And I can even give it numbers, but yeah, we're going there.
Nkola, thank you very much. That was Vusani Matsebula, product developer at the Hospitality and Tourism Association of Eswatini, just sharing insights on the upcoming tourism Indaba, and also adding that there's a need, for the country to digitalize visa services that ensure that tourists find it easier to make their way to the country and actually just do see the country as the ideal tourism destination. We'll catch a break after that. Sifiso and I will be back to wrap up the show. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Eswatini Lifestyle. This is your ultimate guide to the entertainment, to the lifestyle and the culture of Eswatini.
Eswatini Lifestyle. Eswatini Lifestyle.
Eswatini Lifestyle.
From 6:30 to 7 p.m. On Eswatini TV, Sibuko Semaswati.
On Eswatini TV, Sibuko Semaswati. The beats are louder, the vibes are bigger, and the stars are shining brighter. This is The Beatdown, your ultimate music and entertainment fix. With me every Saturday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Eswatini Television, Sibuko Semaswati.
Welcome back. It's 3 minutes before we sign out of here. I've just had a conversation with the Hospitality and Tourism Association. Sfiso, we mentioned earlier that there's a couple of events that will be taking place in the country, and we've also seen His Majesty's travels outside the country. I want to divert now, or rather direct the question to you. Given the couple of weeks, the coming weeks, actually just before the end of the year, what are you most looking forward to in terms of development in the country?
In terms of development, it's a lot. Firstly, what the Ministry of ICT is doing. I think coding is an essential skill, but the really appealing thing about it is benchmarked with the best in the world. And so 300,000 Eswatini, you look at the population, the demographic dividend, we are a young population, so a lot of them get this opportunity to equip themselves in such a short period of time, and yet a very recognized certification. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the youth being proactive and being forthcoming and receiving these programs with open hands. But
and moving
beyond that, the agriculture industry in Eswatini, we know how essential it is to the economic transformation of the Kingdom of Eswatini. We've heard it all. We've had the Minister of Agriculture here. We saw the Indaba. I am not interested in the talk shops. Yes, they're important. I understand how fundamental they are, but it's everything that then eventuates after. So we are yet to call them back and hold them accountable, and we just really want to see if, you know, all the things that they talked about, you know, are able to be are being taken into undertaking. So we want to hear the timelines there. So that is what is really interesting me at the moment, the Ministry of Agriculture as well as the ICT sector, but essentially everything. Our energy space looks like there's a lot of transformation that's about to happen. Obviously, we have seen His Majesty's, you know, leadership, you know, the conversations that he has been forging with Mozambique. Hopefully, we can get out of these doldrums that we are currently in, because we know the situation with Eskom, as well as, you know, the load shedding that we are currently experiencing. No one wants to experience that anymore.
Yeah, otherwise it's a minute. It's quite a lot, you know. This is a year for transformation. It's a minute before 8. I am Notele Sitole. It's been lovely. Until the next edition of Kusile Breakfast Show from us in our studios. Have a great one.